We should, all right, so I called it order. I apologize for my tardiness. It is 1:10 on Monday, April 8th. This is the Town Government Study Committee. First item of business, can I have an approval of the agenda as written?
So moved.
Motion made, second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment? Seeing as there are, again, no members of the public. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 25th.
The minutes, I don't even know, if one, is it a typo, or did I not understand the word? You know what I mean, down under, where is it, near the bottom?
Rick made a motion, or?
No,
No, I made the motion, he's amending.
maladministration? I just was struggling with that.
That's the
That's
it
the
was
word
the
for
phrase
it,
of
but-
art from Mr. Pearson.
Is that the way he describes it?
That's
Okay,
exactly
then
how he describes it.
that's all right. I know the source now.
It explains everything.
It does, but it's a hard, is it in the dictionary? Not too many people are gonna
Yeah,
know
I'm
what
not
we're
sure
talking
it's, I
about.
think,
We might find another way to, you know, to add a request for a, whatever the hell they were asking for. Do you know what I mean?
clarify,
Small.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it'd be helpful, not that it's a big deal.
Okay. All right, so motion was made, there's some discussion on the motion, is there a second?
Second.
So,
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you very much. Let's see, discussion of, all right, so Article 76,
I brought
thank you.
the warrant because I wanted to be darn sure.
So Article 76 are committee to establish complaints. I apologize, I did not attend Tuesday night, I was home sick. But I did receive a phone call from Linda that evening saying, hey, 76 was referred to our government study committee, and that Linda ran into Lauren Goldberg at town meeting and said, hey, the way we need to, you need to be on the phone with us, and we'll invite Teresa and Cliff Williams in, and they can hear straight from your mouth about the feasibility and sort of why this is not such a good idea.
But wasn't there a Giorgio letter that you cited about?
I forwarded around John Giorgio's comments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty negative, it seemed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, I think the exercise is for them to hear it straight from town council's mouth.
Okay, so
via
that
the
is
telephone.
at a meeting where.
So that would be, I believe, and I would need to confirm with Linda, but the intention is for that to be at our next meeting.
So wouldn't you
Do
refer
we
to
also-
both articles? Excuse
I
me,
think,
sorry.
I think that's right.
The one from the year before,
I think that's,
because we
yep.
have two referrals to it.
and that's fine. I mean, I think this is sort of our one-stop shopping, and I'm not sure if we want to extend the invitation to Mr. Pearson as well.
Sure,
So
why
he
not?
can-
And are you gonna, I think we ought to have, you know, a fulsome packet for this agenda item.
Okay,
We should have copies of the warrant articles in
Yep.
both years, copies of what was adopted in both years, and
Letters from the town.
whatever there are, yeah.
Well, there's the letter,
Okay,
obviously.
Yep.
that's great. What I mean is, just, I think this isn't going away.
I think
So
that,
it's best to, and I think then we should, you know, when I drafted my other stuff the other day, our motion should
Mhm.
say what we're gonna do with this stuff. We're
That's right.
gonna vote and send it on to whomever in the heavens are supposed to get it.
well, that's just, I'm not entirely sure who ultimately needs to hear our recommendation, but perhaps it'll be a combination of the select board and the finance committee needs to hear what
Yeah.
we're.
And send it to the moderator too.
Yeah,
I mean, I would think. It's her
Yeah.
town meeting that's referring it to us.
yep.
So,
So that, I will confirm with Linda that that's the case, but my sense is that we would either do it, well, my hope would be that we would do it the Monday after Daffodil, frankly. I selfishly say that only because I'm away from the 10th to the 20th. But that would be,
And I'm committed at the same time, so.
okay, that would be my suggestion.
So, just so we're clear,
Yeah.
are you going to contact, as sort of the chair, I don't mean to burden you.
No, oh no,
But Pearson and Teresa. I think she needs to hear from the chair.
Yeah,
not just
I was
you.
gonna say, I think that it would come from me and from, I'm sorry, that would come from me, and I would reach out to Teresa, Cliff, Michael Pearson, and coordinate with Lauren Goldberg. And obviously Lauren's gonna be the
Yeah.
first call to make sure that she can actually meet.
Right, okay.
Would that be in person or we do it on the phone?
Person would be ideal, my guess is it's gonna be over the phone.
Yeah.
But take what we can get at that point.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, do we want to try to meet like on a Wednesday when there's a select board meeting that she might otherwise?
Well, I think if you talk to her and find she's coming a certain day.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we can do it,
Then,
right,
yeah.
if
then
not,
that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me. I think there's
Good point. Check with her and
a
see
lot.
when she's gonna be here.
Yeah.
because I felt that when, and frankly, just to chat with her in general and sort of give her an update, I found that when the one time we spoke with her on the phone, I found to be
Yeah.
incredibly valuable. I thought she was she did add some excellent insights, and it would be time well spent to.
And quite
Reach out to
frankly, if the other people say they can't meet, we still have to have the meeting and go on the record. I mean, I don't want one person saying, oh, no, you've got to move it till
Mhm.
July 22nd or something.
Yeah.
once they've been invited, I think we need to get this out of our
I-
hair.
Yeah.
It's been far too long.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So you're gonna go to Lauren,
Yep, so Lauren is my first,
yeah.
exactly.
When,
and then-
where, and how.
One way or the other, so I would say basically almost throw it out there that any day that week would work. You know, if you're going to
We'll
be
make it
here.
work.
What were we targeting? Sorry.
Oh, it would either be Monday or a Wednesday, and I think it would be the week of, let's see, 21st, so it would be like the week of the 28th of April.
When's Daffy?
26th to the 28th.
Exactly.
So it's 4:28 or 4:30 or whatever.
Or something.
4:20.
29,
Yep, that's exactly,
yeah.
429.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I can't do that the 1st. That's a Wednesday.
Okay,
29 is a Monday.
okay, so we'll see what she can,
Yeah.
see what she can do, and we'll figure that out. Okay, so anything else on that from anybody? I mean, I think it's nice that we're finally going to be getting some closure on this one. Can move forward. Let's see,
Did
Yep,
you
go ahead.
watch the tape of the town meeting, that part, by chance?
I did not.
Yeah, you might just want to, because there was someone from the school who spoke like specifically to, I think in particular, the item that Teresa Williams had brought
sure.
up. Yeah, so it's just good background.
What was the sense of what they said?
I think they basically were saying that they have a prescribed procedure for handling the type of situation that she was bringing up, and that my sense was they felt that they, did things according to how they are supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is,
You have another one?
you have mine. I know it by heart.
You know that. That would be you.
All right, well, that's, Linda, we were just talking about the following meeting that we'll invite Lauren either in person or on the phone.
She said she would do that. I had a conversation
Right.
with her at town meeting. And then we should invite Clifford and Teresa, so she said she's
And
willing to
Michael.
tell them to their face
I think that's, yep,
what we can and can't
And
do.
the other guy.
Mr. Pearson.
Mr.
Yep.
Pearson.
Oh, Michael, yeah, I've been
get-
going back and forth
Just
with
get them
Michael.
all.
Get them all in the same room, give them the good news.
And let her tell them, so we don't
Pretty
look
much.
like the bad guys. Because the fact that this is the second year in a row,
Yep.
it was referred back to us. And it's not like, I was gonna get up and have a conversation if it went another direction. And even though they're my in-laws, I was gonna say, look, we have been talking about this for an entire year. And town council has said no. And I think, didn't Giorgio put something in print in the paper?
I forwarded around an email.
Yeah, I saw that email. And he's going,
But on the other hand, we ought to have the strength to vote our own opinions on.
we do,
Whatever, so-
but they're not listening to us. I've had the conversation after town meeting with them both. They're not listening. So someone else above our pay grade needs to have the conversation with them.
There's
We're
someone
gonna
above
skip
our
this.
pay grade, Linda?
Yes, so many.
We are the court of last resort.
Right, it was referred to our committee, period.
Yep. Yep, there it goes.
All right,
That
so-
is scheduled now. John is going to reach out to
Lauren.
to schedule either here or by phone, the 29th or the 1st, after Daffodil Weekend.
That's that last weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything's sort of like late. I mean, Easter is
Yeah,
Patriots weekend.
strange.
Yeah. I'm out of here at the end of that week, so going down to New Jersey for a week.
Nice.
It's still there.
Jersey's still there?
You know,
Funny
you're
Diners
you're
and,
from our stomping grounds
I
down there.
know, Morristown,
That's right.
Montclair.
Montclair.
Bergen County.
Pingree.
Oh,
It is.
You got Pingree down here, Linda.
Pingree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Montclair Academy and Kimberly used to battle Pingree all the time. I was over there a lot for sports.
all right, next item.
Parks and Rec Charter. We have a discussion on that. I'm not sure.
I'm confused. Tell me what we have a discussion.
Well, I think it was raised some time ago that there is, Nantucket accepted a charter from the state, I assume.
And we
I
created
have
it.
a copy, we have
Yep.
it. And
And then it was undercut.
then the question is it kind of, what are its legal structure, and is the town,
Obligated to.
should the town follow the legal structure more affirmatively?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we feel about it? So we would circulate this to everybody. And is there anything more than this? I mean, I found this online.
Let me see that.
I mean,
I
that's
was
in the-
instrumental in getting it done.
Yeah.
Right, it's in the bottom, it's down to where the charters are.
I read it in our
online.
charter. The problem is that it's in the charter, it can be acknowledged as being in the charter, they can have their commission. The problem is that Libby stripped them of all funding to get rid of it, because there was this big battle between Kara and the CPC. We're still having a battle with it, because some of the things that are still ongoing, like the fields, were given CPC money to the Parks and Rec Commission, not the DPW. Kara took all the money out of what we had given. You remember, you were on the board at that point, we were battling them, Kara. She took all the money out of the CPC grant. And she could do what she wants without having to DOR. We have to report to the DOR once a month, and they never did. We didn't know what was going on with the money, and then they did stuff at the fields that the CPC did not approve. So we've got stuff going on, and this is where this started to come up again, that the Parks and Rec are not in charge of the beaches, Jetty's Beach,
Yeah.
Dionis, things like they were always involved with. And Jimmy and Megan Ellsworth before that did a great job of managing all that stuff and managing the scheduling and all that stuff. And then Libby got rid of the budget, and the scheduling went off to the community school, who had no freaking clue, was scheduling soccer in the middle of a baseball game. This has been going on since the Parks and Rec left. We need to put the Parks and Rec back with a budget, with a staff, with the oversight, and with teeth, the way it was envisioned to be, and it was for 20-some-odd years perfectly.
Is that a state charter mandate?
Yes, we adopted what the state gave us
Okay.
the right to put it in, but didn't mandate that it be funded. So Libby found a way around that, kept the charter, it had to be in there, kept the commission, but the commission has absolutely no power. Everything is done through the DPW now.
So there are a couple of things to think about when we get to this sometime again.
1987, 30 years.
It also has to do with the relationship between the appointing authority and the commission. So if you go back, I don't know, 6 years, the appointing authority was the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
And that gave it a little extra stature. And then the deal was that the appointing authority became the town manager.
Mhm.
And it's a different appointing process. The applicants don't come before the Board of Selectmen. They may meet with the town manager in private or whatever they do. And I think even the applications were not posted last time. I I'm not sure of
I
that.
can't remember that.
Interesting.
But anyway, all I'm saying is that I think if we're looking at the town structure and whether or not the organization in the charters and the bylaws are being followed, we could comment on this if we thought it was appropriate to do so, so.
Now, there's a great movement among all the sports teams, because I was involved with the men's sport, men's softball and soccer and lacrosse and everything else going on all over the place. They don't want it the way it is now. They all have terrible trouble with the community school and the scheduling and all that stuff and what field is going where.
Mhm.
And Rob isn't as familiar with the various venues that the kids and the adults play on. That's a problem. And the person that used to manage the fields out there, the new field, the turf field and the new grass field next to it, which they've destroyed twice now because of lack of attention that we paid for, that guy's gone. So we don't know what's happening. And you heard the thing on town meeting floor about Rich Brannigan and the field house. That money was scarfed out of there because Kara overran the field and we had to use the money that was really originally for the field house to finish the field. So there's a lot of crap going on. So this has to be brought into control, but just a note, where we see Board of Selectmen in the charter, it should all be changed to
Yeah.
Select Board. But this doesn't give Libby the right to appoint anybody. There is no delegation here, unless it was in that other one from 2007, that she was allowed to appoint anybody, and it doesn't give, or their designee in the Parks and Rec in particular. So that's something we should look at, which 4 or 5 boards staffing
I think-
went over to Libby, or the appointment of the Handicap Commission went over to Libby, a couple of other ones went over to Libby in 2007. But this does not delegate anything to anybody other than the Board of Selectmen.
But I suspect you'll find town council says the board has the authority to further delegate if it so chooses.
Yeah.
And my recollection is the board did so choose in this case, right or wrong. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
I don't,
different issue.
unless it's in here, they can't do that.
Well,
It doesn't say or designee.
So, I mean, I know this has been a issue for town administration, and to a certain degree, this isn't going away with Cheryl Emery is showing up here and there. I know that it's not going away. Has anyone heard if there's been any progress with
Well, let
any?
me-
Zippo.
Let me interject just a little bit. There's a new guy out of DPW, the facilities guy named Chaz Rogers, who goes to St. Paul's. And I'm pretty close to him, and I've been talking with him. I think if he got the agenda, he could move in and help bring order out of this. I just,
If they don't have any staff, and they don't have any teeth, and they don't have any ability to do anything,
but this
regulate
is a facility
anything or
that's now
anything
under
else.
DPW, and this is a good guy, like a guy I would trust a great deal if it was given to him as an assignment under the facilities heading. So I'm just saying there's new personnel
Yeah.
that may be
Yeah.
helpful in addressing
Understand.
the question, and relatively new.
So we may, you gotta think about, I think if we get into recommending budgets and staff, that's not gonna go very far, quite frankly.
Well, we should do
Well,
it.
I'm not so sure. If the DPW would dedicate staff, sort of
Well,
what you're
he has,
speaking
that's his
of.
assignment.
Well, they still don't have the power, because
I
when
understand.
people come to the CPC, the Parks and Rec is the one who came for the skate park, the fields, the playgrounds, et cetera, because they had control of it. So the CPC gave money to the Parks and Rec, not the DPW. The Parks and Rec was the applicant.
Right.
That's where the battle came in, because they got rid of all their budgets, and then it went all to Kara, and we don't know what happened.
Right. I mean,
And we had to battle to get a memorandum of agreement between the CPC and the DPW when Kara was there, because it was so bad. You were still on the board, I think, when this started to disintegrate.
was when this
This cannot be allowed to take place. The Parks and Rec was put in after years of neglect of all of the playgrounds and not mismanagement or, haphazard management, and it served its purpose incredibly well. The bathrooms were kept up, the septics were pumped. When she got rid of the budget, the septic overflowed in Dionis Beach. because nobody knew they had to pump out the septic of the bathrooms. And the kids and the adults, because the minute they screamed at us,
Yeah.
were walking through,
Oh.
yes,
Effluent.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what happened. Because nobody paid attention to any of the fields. We had to battle to get the fields lined. And they said, line it yourself, here's the stuff. Then we had to get battle to get it mowed. And then we had to get a battle for everything else. The Parks and Rec was an absolute necessity. And 90% of us who have ever been on any of these fields with any of our kids for any sport will tell you that the management has not been up to snuff.
So what's our agenda
That's what I was
to
gonna
deal
say.
with this?
Well, we need to take a
What
look
is
at the
in our
charter and see what we
purview
can
of
do with
we
it.
can recommend?
Yeah, I think that's the first that we.
I'm sorry, say again.
What is in our purview to recommend? Like, we
We
can't,
reestablish an
Independent Parks and Rec.
Is that what you're talking
Yes,
about?
with their budget and their staff, and
Okay,
give
how
them
do we
back
go
the,
through
give
a
them back the
process
fields and the
to-
scheduling.
Then do we have to have hearings? How do we? go
No, it
through
was already there. They just have to put the budget back and the staff back. We don't have to do a damn
So we
thing.
have to tell the town manager that she no longer has authority to deal with Park and Rec.
No, she's always had the authority to deal with Parks and
I'm
Rec.
just trying to figure
so
out
we're
where
trying
we're
to start a
going with
new
this.
Reestablish the department as a
And
functioning
that's gonna come from the
department.
town government study versus
As a
going
recommendation.
through town meeting or any other.
Well, but
Yeah,
if it
it's
comes
already
from us,
there.
it'll go to town meeting for a vote.
No,
But I think the point is that it's already in the
Everything we
charter.
recommend has
it's
to go to
already
town.
there.
Okay, so
Can I just?
Yeah, please.
But
Just
before we
Put the
get,
budget back.
help.
there are alternatives to the way Linda's saying it. I mean, I'm not saying that may not be nice, but you gotta also be realistic at the same time. For example, is this analogous to the HDC and the management of its staff, which flows, in that case, through something else? But the idea, it's managed not by the HDC itself. The staff is managed by administration.
Right.
And it would be the same thing here, I think. And if the town manager sent a memo to Rob McNeil and said, remember, you're responsible for all this stuff, and will you please assign a staffer to go to the meetings and properly utilize the advice and skill, something
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
of the committee, that gets a long way there. And we might want to recommend it be appointed by the board, but that's a little different matter as well. And the town then hopefully would say, well, of course I'll do that. Now, I don't know what the hell they'll say, but they might, they're more likely to respond positively to that than saying we want to establish a separate budget and a separate staff that reports to the Park and Rec.
That's not the way it was
Because
at the end anyway.
I'm just saying, that's not gonna happen. So-
That didn't happen, that wasn't the way it was going anyway. Jimmy was responsible to Libby
Right, I'm
as
just
a
trying to make the
as a
distinction,
department head.
Linda, but that's not the way you were saying it. It came across to me as if you were recommending the Park and Rec have its staff.
Now, its staff was administratively, like the planning staff, the ZBA staff, the HCC staff, administratively, they're responsible to whoever that authority is, plus in this case, or Libby, or Greg, because they're split up between the two. Policy-wise, scheduling-wise, things that are day-to-day operations to manage those fields and the bathrooms and everything else were done by the direction of the Parks and Rec, as policy is done by the planning board, as policy is done by the ZBA and the HDC to their staff. But administratively, they're responsible to whoever that authority is, whether it's Greg, Libby, or the Plus Department under contract. That's the way it was operating when she shut it down and took the budget away and took their dedicated staff away that just dealt with the fields. Now, if there's some sort of a symbiotic, you cannot get rid of the Parks and Rec Commission. If there's some sort of symbiotic relationship between extra staff like Jimmy and Charles and those guys that operate through the Department of Public Works, that's fine. But they don't have anybody. And it's haphazard. And Rob, I expect, is trying to get a handle on it, but he doesn't know the backstory. At some point, I'll have that discussion with him. But he doesn't know the backstory of how we got to here. Because he came in with nothing. There's nothing. There's no Parks and Rec. There's nothing. They meet once a month and twiddle their thumbs. That's why it's so frustrating for those
Do they
members.
invite him to come to the meeting?
I don't know, maybe they send somebody now because he's the new sheriff in town, but I haven't gotten that far in the
Well, I sit
conversation.
on the cemetery commission, and he sits on that all the time.
Good.
And in fact, the meeting's held at the DPW.
Yeah, he's, obviously he's very good once he knows the.
Once he knows
what's
happening.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what
He's a good
That's
guy.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I still think
That's
we
promising.
need to deal with this.
Okay, so it's an action item
Yep.
for us to keep moving on.
Yep. That's fair to say.
2019 observations, 3 hours for 3 matters. That's an observation.
On to the next item, which is our observations from town meeting of 2019. Big thanks to Curtis for helping me hand out our.
Oh, we had fun.
Our
We had
We got-
fun. We were
Tucker, too.
competing to give out the
Absolutely.
brochure.
Yeah, right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
got a lot handed
Well,
out
did we
there.
get any feedback from them?
Not that I've heard.
I heard nothing.
You haven't heard
I
anything?
didn't either, although people said, I had a couple of people say, oh, if you have a representative town meeting, I can still go and speak.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
one of the critical
Absolutely.
questions that anyone can speak, but when it comes to the vote, your reps are the ones who do the voting. And there are several people who said to me, I didn't realize that you could still go to speak.
I
They
think,
thought it was a closed session.
I think one of the positive aspects was like in handing it out, like I made a point of saying, this is a report from the committee.
Yeah.
I said, nothing on here is being voted on
Yeah, it's
today.
no- yeah, I
It's
kept
just
saying it's a no-
information.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think people appreciated that.
No question.
That was we're not being shown up and asked to
To vote on
decide on this
something.
thing.
Yeah.
Was a
Right.
position paper or something.
And I
Yeah.
thought the outline on the front was helpful, and then to get inside when they were bored with a lot of stuff, people actually might have read it.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty interesting document, actually,
Yeah.
the options.
I have gotten a lot of positive feedback. Some, I don't know, how does it work? But I've gotten positive feedback, because especially after fall, where we only had 235 people maybe,
Yeah.
we won't run into those problems necessarily because it's 235 people that represent their people.
Plus,
And they'll
based
show up.
on the Falmouth thing, remember, you've got to show up.
You gotta show up.
And their quorum is half plus one, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
So they can pass the financial articles, they can pass the stuff we couldn't pass in the fall.
well, my bias is drifting that way, obviously, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. I'm not going to dare remember the gentleman's name who got up and started chatting about some of the financial articles.
Toby Brown.
Who said, well, they told me I could come up here without actually knowing anything and ask questions then. I thought,
Who said this?
Toby Brown.
Who the hell is Toby
I
Brown?
thought
Is he a
well,
trust fund hippie?
there is one
No.
of the
That's what somebody
sort of
told me.
reasons for looking at
Maybe.
a representative, or what we, when we were in Falmouth, they say, well, the frustrating thing is that you have people who show up who just don't know what they're.
Yeah. And the
We
thing
want to
is,
encourage participation, but we want to
You want
encourage
them to-
informed
Yes.
participation.
but the people that show up that are representative
They are.
have
informed.
met with their people, know
Remember,
what's
they
going
have
on,
the
and they're
regional
informed.
meetings with
Right.
the
And
town
they're
manager
informed.
and the town clerk.
Yeah.
Well, I felt, again, the general feedback, people were pleased that we were giving them information without asking them to decide right then and there how to vote.
Yeah.
And I hope that we continue to proceed in that direction with the public hearings. And
Yep.
when we're doing a public hearing, I'd like to see an ad in the paper, and
I
the
agree.
town rate is really cheap, so you can afford it. And we probably should do a couple, like once in July and once in August,
I
because they're
agree.
different populations, but even though they're not voters.
Definitely. And we get non-voting taxpayers that may have something to say.
Do you
Yeah,
think
so-
that
And we have
Mary
all
Ann
the-
would do
we
an
have all-
article about what we've been doing?
Oh, are you kidding? It depends what her current bias happens to be, because.
Who is this?
Mary
Mary Ann.
Ann. I'm just thinking like if there was an article in June to say we're gonna have public meetings.
Well, I think what,
July or something.
somebody contacted me a couple months ago about, if we were interested in representative town government, and this was well before we had any meetings with Falmouth, a while ago, and I wasn't able to chat with them. They say, oh, not a big deal, I don't think this article's going away, we'll get you the next time. So I think it is
It's out
in
there. Because Jason had that front
Collective
page
conscious.
article,
Yeah,
remember?
Jason had the front
2
page
months ago about
story,
it.
and I think she even wrote either an editorial or in her here and there,
Well, it's time
like
to talk
questioning
about it,
whether
yes.
we should be
Look,
talking
I'll tell you
about
one thing, I would buy a half-page ad before our open meetings or at certain points and sort of summarize the 2
Yep.
pages of the
Mhm.
document. Because I think it's important to get it out to people and they don't go out of their way to find out. They're not going to the website, so punch it out. I have proposed here years ago. Now, remember, I did all this in the academic world. I printed and ran staff weekly newspapers at the University of Pennsylvania and at Tufts, because with the medical schools and all the rest scattered around, nobody knew what was going on. I have said to the town and to the hospital, you should do a quarterly insert, print. I know everyone's electronic these days, but I ain't. I read the Wall Street Journal and turn the pages. And I have said for 10 years, do a quarterly 4-page tabloid insert, tell them what's going on. And I still argue that position for us, that running a half-page ad at the town rate, it's dirt cheap.
We don't have that budget to do that.
We don't have a budget, we don't have to have a budget.
We cannot run any ads without approval from the administration.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
we want to tell them this is the way we choose to report, if we decide that is a recommendation that we choose to recommend as a way to report. They paid for the insert we handed out.
That's right.
That was
Yeah,
choice.
that's different.
Well,
That's not,
don't
that's not a
say
monthly
no yet.
ad.
I'm trying to give you a way of communicating that, in my opinion, is more effective and than just putting it on, read it on your screen. Bearing in mind that if you have something in the Ink and M, that goes by mail to people off island as well. It's not just the buy it at the newsstand circuit.
I'd rather do a blurb sending them to our website or something along those lines than having the stuff on the website. Because
You can have
the
it on
first thing
website,
I
but-
see everybody do when you get the I&M is everything in the middle gets thrown out.
Well, I
Well,
think we could have an ad.
a
an
paid
ad.
announcement that is,
Half-page ad is a couple
Report.
grand.
I didn't say a half-page ad. I said a full-page ad. Well, all right, it's an idea that I'm trying to keep,
yeah.
but we
So-
need to have an
Yep.
information distribution system that's multifaceted.
Do we have a
We just do
website?
what the Dreamland did and say, in 30 years, do you want to see a mayoral form of government? Go to our website,
Right.
and then we're going to want people to go to our website.
Well, you could always put the little
Oh,
teeny
sure.
weeny blurb in there, go to the website for a government study committee and express your
Fine,
interest
fine.
and have it interactive, which is, town is not generally
Whatever
interactive.
gang you want to do, I'm just saying, let's make sure we do it well and regularly and frequently and
Get,
keep, if we are going to bring a recommendation, let's have it a knowledgeable base that's going to respond.
I think that's absolutely critical, frankly, that whatever and whenever we do come up with our recommendation, that we need to make sure that we've done our public outreach.
And part of Chrissy's question, will Mary Ann or Josh do an article? Well, if we have the meetings in the public hearings in July and August, and another one, theoretically, they'll get covered.
Yeah.
So the more we hustle and the more we beat the drum, the more people are gonna hear about it and maybe ask questions.
Well, plus I think we have, because I'm involved with a lot of them when we were doing the area plans. We have, the Tom Nevers Association meets during the summer. The Brand Point Association
Sure.
meets twice. The Surfside Association meets twice. We have various associations that
There's
are
a
members of
town-
the Civic League
Yeah.
that we can also go and have just a brief conversation with the area.
And I would be
Meetings
happy to
and put that out.
volunteer with you busy people to go out and make reports to those associations. It'd be great if a team could go, Rick and I could go, but no, we'd both be biased.
They all know me down on Brand Point.
Go ahead, you have
So
something to
I
say,
just,
Greg.
I have a
Please.
little different reaction from people. I mean, I hear all.
Yeah.
sort
Yeah,
of-
go ahead.
Yeah.
One thing I heard was that we went from, 200 to 550 or whatever. And so to overreact to one lack of a quorum and to make a decision and have that drive the discussion is not always healthy. It needs to be more substantive to that. I also have heard from people that they they are concerned about losing their voice, and you have to recognize that.
Sure.
If you have 100 reps and
250.
well, 250 for our size. If we were doing it like Falmouth, we'd be a third of their size, so you have to think about that. Anyway, we haven't gotten there yet. But I'm just sharing with you, if Tom Nevers has a big deal because they're gonna be invaded by 640Bs, or, pick the topic, and they wanna really activate themselves, and all the other reps, they got no voters out there, they're gonna be very concerned. So it's not so simple, so.
And
We'll see where we go.
we brought up all those questions. What do you do with the areas that are all year round, or in all, like Badlands, or all summer, like Surfside South, that kind of stuff? And they said you draw them so you end up with the same amount of representation from each one. It's not like the Electoral College. Everybody has so many representatives. Brant Point would be grouped up with a cliff somewhere, so they get people, because there's 2 people who live in Brant Point. So
I hear you.
they'd move
I
it
get
around
the
like
idea.
that. They said there's a way to draw them to get that, and they said the average is 250. But what I was gonna suggest is that we find a smaller community on the Cape that has representative
Well, let's
also,
look
and
at
find
the
out how they
50
deal
of
with
them.
it.
50 of them, let's find another one other than Falmouth as a model.
On the Cape.
I sent, a couple weeks ago, I
Well,
sent you
not
an
less.
Excel document of every
Yeah,
town.
and I think the answer is there are none. I'm not absolutely certain of
But I
that,
said
but
which
I'm pretty sure when you go through that,
On the Cape.
I think we know a lot more now. Hyannis is different, Barnstable.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
That's a-
council.
that's a
Yeah, I
council
understand.
with a-
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I may be wrong, I don't think you're gonna find representative town meetings in the other town, but let's look at the list.
Well,
and
maybe
find
not
out.
on the
There's
Cape,
one
but there are
other
50,
town
yeah.
that is similar to our size. that
That's what I
has-
thought, but I can't, is
Yeah.
it Mashpee, Brewster, somebody along those lines?
No,
Katuitt?
It's in the list, so,
Yeah.
Well, it's really funny, at town meeting, I happened to be sitting next to a woman who I had no idea who she was, and we were killing time, and so she had the report, and she was looking at it, I said, well, I'm sort of on that committee, and what do you think? And she said, well, it sounds interesting, and she said, but how will you decide the districts? And I said, well, you would have, Surfside, and then you have a heavy population density around the Bartlett Road area, and she looked at me and she said, that, sir, is not Surfside. Surfside is south of South Shore Road. Anything north of South Shore Boulevard is Mid-Island. It's not Surfside. I laughed. I
She's
almost
wrong
fell off.
completely. Surfside area plan ends at my Comet Road, at the Housing Authority. And it
Well,
goes all
she
the way up
thinks
to the
it ends-
airport.
She says it's those of us who live on the other side of Fairgrounds Road in South Shore. That's Surfside. The rest of you are Mid-Island. I just had to chuckle. She's
So-
very nice.
So the 4 towns are Swampscott,
Swampscott, yeah.
Holbrook, Adams, and Montague.
Well,
That have
Swamp's
representative?
gonna be an
So
interesting.
that's
They
sort of
have
confirmed.
Yeah,
representative
Swampscott
town
would be a
meeting.
pretty good one to look
Yeah,
They're
at.
the
and
same,
now-
about the same.
All right, because there's a lot more that
Size
have representative
population.
town meeting than that. but
No,
those are
that's the same. They have
Same
about-
population base?
They have between 10 and 15,000.
Who on the Cape has representative town meeting that's not the same size? That's what I'm looking for. Falmouth
Go
is
to the
bigger.
whole list.
Oh, my God.
Well, I'll go up.
These are
I'll
all
look up
representative?
Swampscott
No,
when
that's
I
the
go
whole
home. I'm curious
Massachusetts.
about
Well, how do I
that.
find
Because I
out what's
think my
representative? I
nephew
see
just
them.
bought a house there yesterday. First time home buyer. $399,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath
Where is this?
in Swampscott.
Swampscott, guys.
Swampscott.
I think is that where the governor is from?
Swampscott?
Yeah.
Maybe we get on this good side.
He's an alien.
North Shore.
Oh, Franklin.
Well, overall, I thought
The
that was
Franklin will be a
housing,
good
housing
one.
bill passed.
And I think electronic voting may end up impacting
That's-
how we think about this as well, because that's
I'm.
Understand,
different
guys.
Everybody
I was
raised their
surprised.
hand.
Yeah, I was
Underst-
very surprised.
But understand, they think they're voting like that without raising
know.
their hand. That's not the way that's not the way it works. It is only used when you have to go to a hand
Hand
count,
count, right.
or if you can't tell which hand count. It's not used on every single vote. That's
Well,
not how it works.
But I beg to differ, Linda. It can work any way the moderator of the town decided it should work.
That's not what our guy told us that over there. Because we asked, is there
No,
any,
that's
do you
how
use
they
it every
use it.
time,
That's how they
anything
do it.
else? He
When you
said
say our
no.
guide there, where are you talking?
The town clerk and their
In what town?
their manager.
So you're talking about one town?
Because they'd already done,
As
no.
opposed to how people do it.
They'd already gone to the companies that handle that. And they said, that's not how it's set up. And I said, is there any other way to use it? And he said, that's how it's used, period.
If the moderator
Not for
says
every
an
vote.
electronic vote on everything and everyone has a voting
Council
gadget,
manager.
you can do electronic voting.
So I really like the idea
That's
of
not
these
how it's set up.
outreaches to the community associations this
Yeah,
summer.
and I will volunteer along with you.
Well, I'll go to some.
I can go to some of them.
But-
I've already done the
But
Brent Point one.
is the idea to go
Worcester.
and talk about the different things that we're considering and get feedback from these
Well, I
different
think
groups?
the report is a
or
basis that says here are 4 kinds of government. You
Yeah.
can't have a mayor, so forget that. You could have a council if you chose to. We have open, and then there's the representative, and we're looking at all of the options,
we
including
wanna-
keeping what we have.
Right, and we want to hear your feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
We also want to hear their feedback in general about how the
That's-
town's going, the government.
Yeah.
There's
Form of
not enough of
government.
that going on in Nantucket.
All
It's a-
that.
It's a closed corporation that does not reach out.
Mhm. No, I think it's great to reach out. It's fantastic.
So we're gonna be the bellwethers. We're going to take the lead on showing how to have open government.
They're saying that Barnstable has a representative.
No, they don't. They have a council.
I know,
was
but they're
there.
saying-
I gave you a report.
I got it, but on this site, wherever this thing came from, it says Barnstable has
Wikipedia?
representative town meeting.
Do they have representative town
They
meeting?
have a
and-
council.
Yes, but they have representative town meeting,
So
according
They
to
don't.
this.
They never have a town meeting. They never have a warrant.
Yeah, that's why this is so
are we through
weird.
the discussion of town meeting
Any-
observation?
Anything
Where
else
did
you
this list
have?
come from?
Wikipedia?
Well, I have an other
not right.
business. related.
Wikipedia's.
Don't go there.
Anybody else with any other comments on town meeting? No.
No,
Anything further
Well,
business?
I have a comment.
painfully
Oh,
2 nights.
The comment is,
Barnstable says count.
what do you think's gonna happen tomorrow?
Yeah, but keep going. There
Oh,
there are
we're not
things.
there, we're not there
Listen,
yet.
there are
That's
4
an
or 5
interesting
towns
thing,
in there
because
that
my
are 5 towns
experience
on
at
that
town
list.
meetings, we vote
So you
always
get, you
goody
scroll through the whole
things.
list like I just
And
did,
then
and they're
the
listed
people who
5
don't go
different
to town
times.
meeting,
Because I
go
saw
down
the
there and
council
turn
and
it
then
all
down
down.
further it
And
said representative
I
town
have
meeting, so
my
Wikipedia's not the
goes
place to
and
go.
no-goes
I can
out
go
of
mass
the,
municipal now.
agenda, because I ain't voting for $67 million on my house is not the average house in Nantucket.
Houses,
impact-
houses.
The impact on my property would be
Was he a
double or
real estate
triple
mogul?
what was stated. And,
Got a whole complex up there.
That's his
well,
problem.
That's just a personal thing, but it's
You're
still
gonna tax to
$67
death.
million is
It's a lot of money.
too damn much money.
For which one?
Never mind, I'll vote.
Oh, Article 10.
Privacy of the
Article,
ballot.
yeah, Article 10 is already in there.
Tucker, do you have something else for other business?
Well, I just was, not a new thing, but I guess I just wanted to get my head clear on, so aside from the discussion around Article 76 with Lauren and invited guests at the next meeting, and thinking about the upcoming season, so we're preparing to have these sorts of discussions and outreach with a variety, hold some hearings.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that really our principal focus between now and these next few months? Is there something we're trying to accomplish in
I think
advance
we're
of that?
in my personal feeling is that this is part of the information gathering.
Yeah.
And I see us coming back together in the fall and beginning to put together some recommendations.
And digest
That's
everything
the
that
way
we
I
did over
see
the
it.
summer.
After we
I
vote.
tend to agree. I think we've
Yeah.
laid a pretty solid
I think we've done a
framework
damn
for
good
where,
job,
where we
actually.
think we're gonna go, but it would be nice to get more,
Yeah,
solicit
Looking
more public.
backwards.
Yeah.
We wanna have the recommendations in time for next April's town meeting.
Right.
yeah, we're not
Yeah.
trying to get them into a fall town meeting.
No.
Correct.
No.
Right.
So then when
correct.
would everything have to be?
Well, the selectmen could put it, the
They
selectmen are
adopt the
gonna have to
warrant in
adopt it
January.
and
So
put it in
but it's
themselves.
gotta-
January is our drop
So
dead,
then
more than
January's
likely.
adopted, deadline.
Yeah,
Because
but
we'll
I
have
would
the
say
fall.
the fall.
They can put a
by the-
placeholder in and then we can get it
By the
together,
end
but
of the year, we should
would-
have
by
a
January.
framework,
I agree.
and
Yeah.
the details can be plugged in.
But, yeah, so I think at the next meeting, maybe we wanna have a
Timeline?
timeline of, yeah, so, which would be part of communicating to
Okay.
people.
Yeah, and we need to know when the area associations are.
Yes,
and
yeah.
begin to, you know, I get a big calendar like that thing up on the board, and I plug stuff into it, and
Surfside,
So
two,
you just need to
Fair Point
recognize,
has
my
two.
guess is, since the
Two?
yeah,
area
pretty
associations
sure. I know Surfside has two. One in
probably,
July and one in
I'm
August.
just speculating, are weighted for
I get the
seasonal
notice on
people.
those.
Yeah,
And you need to find a way to get to let's say the voter split is 20% in neighborhood associations and 80% not. I just made that up.
Yeah.
But, so we need to think about how you work the rest of the voters, not the seasonal residents. Okay.
yeah. Well, we're gonna have public hearings over at the four fairgrounds anyway. I mean, I thought that was general public hearings as well as going out into the area.
That was my
Yes.
assumption.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
already.
So you may want to go to Rotary and some other outfits like
Yep.
that,
Civic
that
League.
may have a better concentration of voters. I'm not sure, but you want to,
No, that's
be
good.
nice to run the list and get a
Builders
sense.
Association would be
Town
an interesting
Association.
one.
Sure.
Builder Association doesn't meet during the summer, so if we're gonna meet with the Builder Association, it has to be between now and May,
Well, we can do it in September too.
yeah. So
I
there's,
mean, we don't need.
certain things don't bother during the summer, it's just too crazy.
No, but, yeah, but we still were going to have public hearings, and part of that calendar Tucker's talking about is, when do we want to have do we want to have a public hearing late spring before we sort of adjourn for July and August while we're out on the road?
I would
And
think
then
so.
I was thinking that might be a good idea to, again, grab them by the short hairs and say, come on, pay attention to what we're doing. 'cause we're
Sometime in
doing good."
June would be good, because everybody's here, their
Yeah,
houses are
that
open.
would
Exactly.
be- That would be something. So I like the idea of a
Okay.
master schedule.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll
Okay.
bring an Excel spreadsheet or prints.
I have one other thing for other business.
Yes,
Our
please.
minutes aren't on our website at all.
Really? Because I actually last week got in touch with Florencia about posting them.
Oh, okay. I didn't check today.
We're not the
No,
only
no, no,
ones.
this would have been like last, yeah, no,
Oh, is that the last time I
That
checked,
means
or the last time I did the minutes, which would have been probably 2
Yeah.
weeks
because
ago.
I did
Yeah.
a big, I did a big
I have to go to a
minute
housing
and
authority
document
meeting.
dump after our
Okay.
last meeting.
So it's probably,
Cover our budget
I'll
to go
double
up to
check.
DHCD.
I just
Nice
noticed
job on
for
finding
like the last 2 years.
Nice
or
job on
something.
finding
Yeah, no, it's,
And I'm working so hard on these.
I know, I know.
I had to wrap it
People
up
will
in
pick on
reality
each other.
at somehow at the end.
rightfully so.
Date and time of next meeting, you're gonna let us know?
I'm gonna let us know, but it would be ideally that week.
Okay.
Can I see this?
Motion to
29. Motion, motion made,
She can shove it
second.
up her ass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much for.
She's gotta cut
coming
it out.
on a
She's
very
not a lone wolf.
dreary-
We don't care what she has to say right now.